So, I got mixed feelings on Ragna Crimson. I mean, the characters involved in it are amazing. Not amazing in the sense that they're super cool and awesome people, but they're just insane. Especially Crimson and Ultimatia, those two are the craziest of the crazy and the worst of people, if you can even call them that. While Ragna, the other main character in the title, is as bland as a moist saltine cracker at first, and I'll explain what I mean by that later. But as for the plot, it's pretty basic. Evil force that's evil. Let's defeat them because they did bad things. And sure, you got elements of Ragna having some memories and power from his future self, but at this point with all the timey-wimey reincarnation stuff, I feel like that's not enough anymore to make an anime special. But again, it's the characters that truly make this anime shine. So I don't know how to feel. If you don't care about the characters but instead want to see fighting and death, which there's a lot of, this anime is a fun watch, cause this shonen really shonens out. For example, it has a power system to compare the MC with other people. A dragon because what shonen doesn't like dragons? Buff men because that's prominent in shonen for some reason. Mecha because mecha. Girls that love the MC, and the final fight is straight up in space like every other final shonen anime is. I mean, that's many of the major bits and pieces that are in shonen, so it's got it all. But it's just got it all. It kind of feels like it all has those aspects just to have those aspects. I mean, the power system just gets thrown out of the window and everyone has the same idea as the power system of the world, which is just a special type of metal. I mean, some people are just strong for no reason, while others are half-breeds of dragons and humans which don't even get explained. The dragons can easily be replaced by any other monster, like they suffer from sunlight just like vampires. So there's no reason for them to be dragons except for dragons are cool. Buff men are still, well, just buff men. The mecha is only at the end and is by definition shoved in there just to have it. And though one of the girls who likes the MC is actually a really good character, the other one only really got seen in the first few episodes and is never seen again in the entire anime. Like, she was just forgotten about. But at the same time, there is so much fighting. When they wage a war, they wage a war. And if you want to see an anime where people fight to the death constantly and over-the-top battles with so much death, then watch Akame ga Kill. But if you've already watched that, then Ragna Crimson has plenty more bloodshed. So as long as you don't care about all the extra bits and want to see death, this anime is great. But I personally really like the extra bits. Luckily for me though, the characters really make up for it. Mainly being Crimson and Ultimatia, who are an anti-hero and anti-villain respectively. I mean, Crimson's main goal is 100% just to kill all dragons. The dragons are currently killing an entire country because one shop was closed, so kill those unjust jerks and make them suffer, which is Crimson's goal. But how is Bro doing this? Well, that's where the anti-hero comes in. Crimson decided it was a good idea to kill all the dragons at any cost. Like the cost of an entire section of a city and the people living in it. Like, Bro just caused mass amounts of death just to distract Ultimatia so Ragna could get more hits in. Like, anti-heroes usually have more of a moral code than this. But hey, goal equals kill all dragons, goal equals good, so Crimson is an anti-hero. But the way it's done is so amazing. Crimson's character is really pushing the line between hero and villain with every single action. To Crimson, everyone is a tool to be used just to meet the end goal. Even Ragna, the actual main character, is a tool, and Crimson says this so many times. It's actually insane that we're supposed to be rooting for Crimson at all. And then there's Ultimatia, the anti-villain. Her goals are inherently evil, being to wipe out an entire country, but she wants to do it humanely, by killing out the people humanely, making sure no one suffers in the process as if they just disappeared. Like, her goal is terrible, but the way she's doing it is kind. Like, this was one of the biggest reasons I stayed watching this anime, because the comparison between the two. Super evil person doing evil things kindly, and super evil person doing good things evilly. I've seen both character archetypes separately, but putting both face to face is not really something I've ever seen before. And this anime does a really good job showing off how far each of them will go, and I just love that. Now, what if I told you my favorite character wasn't either of them, but instead a slime? That's right, it's Slime Senpai. I just love Slime to death. He is a major comic relief character, always thinking he's higher than thou, calling everyone a stupid human, just being the very best. Every joke used by, towards, and from Slime always lands. My favorite has to be just hit him hard enough to make him forget/reset him joke. There was a lot of build up for it, and the end bit was great, and he's just always there for Ragna. Though Crimson did tell him to follow Ragna Ragna, he is eventually there just to be there, and it's really nice. In my entire watch through of this anime, the only one I could consistently root for was Slime, so I just had to add this bit. Now, I've only talked about 3 of the characters so far, but there's a cast of about 30 characters, depending on how you classify them. Now, that's a lot of characters, like way too many to keep track of, but most of them, except like 3 really similar ones, are all distinct enough that I could tell them apart and know exactly where they belong in the story. And that's a really hard thing to do with that many characters. And you know what's even harder to do? Give them all backstories. Like, all of them have backstories. Even the character at the beginning who disappears never to be seen again has a backstory. Every single one of the main dragon baddies has a backstory, and it honestly makes you feel sympathetic for them. Like, it's the blood of the dragons that's making them heartless and crazy, but each of them are tragic in their own way. I actually felt bad for the bad guys at points, and that's not something easily done, especially if the bad guys are killing an entire kingdom. And eventually, you start feeling attached to each of the characters, all 30 of them, and it makes it way worse when everyone starts dying. Like, you actually start feeling bad for the dragons and humans alike. Just for everyone to die, one after another. It's so sad, but it's all so amazing. And for the 3 main characters, Ragna, Crimson, and Ultimatia, they even get character progression. Well, Ragna becomes a better person, while Crimson and Ultimatia change, but do definitely become worse people. For Ultimatia, she becomes Traumatia. Ragna just trounces her, destroying her over and over despite having magic to stop and rewind time. Ragna just wails on her, absolutely destroying her, and ultimately traumatizing her. Like, she was too scared to leave her room, traumatized by their fight. If I got beaten that hard and that person was able to move while I was freezing time, I'd be traumatized as hell. But this just launches her off her high horse and changes her character massively. We especially see this in the final fight where she becomes super weak and just a crybaby. Like, Crimson is fighting her, and sure, Crimson is attacking her mentally, but she just cries, panics, and freaks out the entire time. She is not worthy of the final boss position because she just becomes so lame. And this was an amazing thing. Because her actions and attitude were so lame, she is horrible. So traumatizing her and making her scared of her own shadow is just so justifying and cathartic. All she becomes is a bundle of fear who can only attack at random with no grace while calling out for her subordinates to save her. From the final boss, she became pathetic. And Crimson also follows a similar path. Come episode 19, a big change comes to Crimson. Mainly, Bro loses all luck. Like, at first, anything Crimson would try would work out pretty flawlessly, only ever failing when Ragna would step in and do his own thing, which in this case he does again, and actually humiliates the hell out of Crimson. Like, I was loving Crimson, but Ragna kicked Crimson off a high horse as well. And though Crimson doesn't get traumatized like Ultimatia, Bro's luck hits the negatives, where everything that can go wrong does go wrong with Crimson. Like, time after time, Bro just can't catch a break. But that brings even more difference between Crimson and Traumatia. One loses once and becomes so pathetic, while the other tries oh so hard to continue despite endless setbacks. The difference between each of these characters, despite the similarities, is just crazy. And for Ragna, he finally stops being a darn tool. Like, he stood up to Crimson and decided he was going to do what he wanted to. After humiliating Crimson, he went out to actually fight how he wanted to and for the people he cared about. I mean, the whole time he was just a tool. He was so brilliant and had zero drive except for my future self wanted me to, so all he was doing was being used by Crimson. So when he finally fought for those he cared about, he got way more badass. Like, getting beheaded than just sticking his head back on badass. I mean, this was such a needed change of pace for his character because honestly, it should just be called Crimson for the first 18 episodes. But he really steps into his own come the final few episodes. So I'm writing this part right after I finished the last episode, and I gotta say, it was good. And without revealing too much, they managed to make you feel bad for Ultimatia. Like, throughout the show, she was the worst of the worst. But after seeing everything that she was put through, I honestly kind of feel bad for her and all. Which, after showing such a terrible creature, making me feel bad for her, like, That's crazy. And on the note of characters, this anime really puts it on to the characters here at the end. Like, I was talking about how the plot itself wasn't the best, but the characters make this anime shine, and the anime itself knows that. So to end it off and make us feel really emotional and attached to the anime itself, it puts its best foot forward and shows how amazing its characters really are. And after all that death, we get to see the survivors, and they had a really impactful line that hit twice. Ragna was like, "I don't feel regret. It would be an insult to everyone if I did feel that way." And that was one of the most real lines there was in this anime. Earlier on, one of the twins was gonna let Ultimatia rewind time, but she didn't, because that would be an insult to everyone who fought and lost their lives for what they believed in. And with an anime based heavily on wars and loss, this line really hits perfectly. For the future of this anime, it is possible for future seasons to be had. Remember, they want to kill all 6 dragon monarchs, and Ultimatia is only 1 monarch. Plus, we did see the super creepy claw monarch girl, so she's probably next. Sadly though, there's not enough to make a whole 24 episode season such as this one, so it will probably take some time, but I do really want to see what comes next. Anyways, I'm out of time with this video. Hope you enjoyed. I'm Ayanali, and bye bye.